September 11th, 2001. An official voice crackled through the speakers in the World Trade Center's South Tower, assuring thousands that their building was secure and they should remain at their desks. But one man ignored the order, picked up his bullhorn, and started evacuating 2,700 employees. The next 17 minutes would decide who died and who lived to tell the tale. This is Monochrome Documentaries. We bring history's overlooked heroes to center stage. His name was Rick Rescorla. To most of the people who passed him in the lobby, he was just the security chief, a calm, solid figure in a suit, with a faint Cornish accent and a soldier's posture. But long before Morgan Stanley gave him a badge and an office in the South Tower, Rick had worn a different uniform. He had fought in Vietnam as an army officer. He had led men under fire, calculated risks with lives on the line, and learned, painfully, that official assurances meant nothing if the plan itself was flawed. Decades later, when he took the job at the World Trade Center, he walked the underground parking garages, studied the structural columns, and made a quiet prediction to a friend. "This place," he said, "is a target, and one day someone is going to try to blow it up." He was right, and the first time, they came from below. February 26, 1993. A truck bomb detonated in the underground garage beneath the North Tower. Smoke filled the stairwells. Lights failed. Confusion spread faster than the fire. Rick Rescorla moved quickly. He didn't wait for instructions from above. While official messages told workers to stay calm and stay put, Rick gave a different order: get out. He guided Morgan Stanley employees down darkened stairwells, using that same command voice he had once used on a battlefield. All around him, he saw the consequences of hesitation. People trapped in elevators, choking in smoke-filled corridors, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. The towers didn't fall. The world moved on, but Rick did not. He remembered the feel of hands gripping his sleeves in the smoke, the sound of people coughing in the dark, the way fear spread faster than any fire alarm ever could. In the aftermath, he filed reports, argued that the towers were still vulnerable, and insisted that this was not a freak accident. It was a rehearsal. Most people, even inside his own company, wanted to believe 1993 was the end of the story. Rick was certain it was only the beginning, so he made a decision that to many looked obsessive. To him, it was the only way thousands would survive the next attack. Rick Rescorla turned the World Trade Center into a place people quietly dreaded for a different reason: his evacuation drills. 4 times a year, he ordered Morgan Stanley's thousands of employees to leave their desks, file into the stairwells, and walk, floor by floor, all the way down. People complained. Executives grumbled about lost time. Emails piled up. Meetings were interrupted. Rick didn't care. He timed their descent with a stopwatch. He studied bottlenecks, where people hesitated, where they bunched up, where panic might spread. He refined the plan again and again. He changed routes. He reassigned stairwells. He rewrote instructions. Every drill exposed a weakness. Every weakness meant time. And time, he knew, was the only thing that would matter. He urged Morgan Stanley leadership to move out of the towers entirely. When that failed, he insisted on more drills, better communication, clearer protocols. To many, it felt excessive. A man haunted by a past explosion that most had already forgotten. But in Rick's mind, the question was not if there would be another attack. It was how fast can we get everyone out when it happens. For 8 years, he prepared for a day no one else wanted to picture. And on a clear Tuesday morning in September, that day arrived. September 11th, 2001. A cloudless sky over Manhattan. From the 44th floor of the South Tower, the view was perfect. Just after 8:46 a.m., Rick looked out and saw something no security plan could fully prepare you for. A passenger jet slamming into the North Tower. Flames erupted. Glass and debris rained down. The world's tallest office complex became a war zone in seconds. Sirens began echoing up the avenues. Paper drifted down from the sky like snow. People on the streets were already running before most of the building understood why. Inside the South Tower, confusion exploded. Some thought it was an accident. Others reached for phones. Some froze. Rick didn't. He knew two things instantly. The first tower had been deliberately attacked, and the second tower, his tower, was not safe. He ordered his team to begin an immediate evacuation of every Morgan Stanley floor. Before any official announcement reached the speakers, he was already activating the plan he had rehearsed for 8 years. Then, over the building's system, the message came. The South Tower was secure. Please remain at your desks. Rick listened. Then he hung up. He had heard this kind of reassurance before. This time, he was not going to let it decide who lived and who died. Rick Rescorla ignored the order. He grabbed his bullhorn, his walkie-talkie, and his flashlight and headed straight for the stairwells. Everybody on the floor, leave now, he told his colleagues. This is not a drill. Because of those hated drills, people knew exactly what to do. Desks emptied, lines formed. Thousands began their descent, floor after floor. 2,700 lives moving like a single organism. In the stairwell, tension thickened. The stairwells narrowed. Shoes scraped concrete. Someone was crying. Someone was praying. The air was warm, metallic, and hard to breathe. Somewhere above them, they knew, there was fire. Somewhere outside, there was a sky filled with smoke and paper. To keep them moving, Rick did something unexpected. He sang. Old marching songs from his youth, folk tunes from Cornwall, anything to cut through the fear, to replace panic with rhythm. Step by step, they descended. And then, at 9:03 a.m., as Rick's people were still inside the South Tower, United Airlines Flight 175 slammed into their building between the 77th and 85th floors. The tower shuddered. Lights flickered. The stairwell shook. Yet in the darkness and dust, the lines kept moving, because one voice would not let them stop. But Rick wasn't content with just getting most people out. There was a choice ahead of him, one that would determine whether he walked out of the tower he was trying to empty. While people marched down to safety, thanks to his warnings, I've just one small request. I pour a lot of time into uncovering real heroes like this. If this video meant something to you, please subscribe. It's free for you, but it makes a huge difference and tells me to keep making more stories like this. By then, thousands of Morgan Stanley employees had reached the street. Many of them were alive because Rick had refused to obey the stay-put order. Outside, they were told to keep moving away from the plaza. Some turned back to look at the burning towers, stunned by how close they had been to being trapped inside. Rick could have joined them. He had done more than anyone could reasonably expect. Instead, he turned around. Reports said he was last seen on the 10th floor, heading back up, checking for anyone left behind. The slow, the injured, the people who hesitated. Somewhere between those floors, he called his wife. He told her that he was safe for the moment, that he had to go back and get more people out. "If something happened to me," he said, "just know I have to do this." He hung up and kept climbing. The tower was still burning above him. The stairwells were still filling, but he kept moving upward, into a building that no longer had much time left. Moments later, at 9:59 a.m., 56 minutes after the South Tower was struck, it collapsed. Rick Rescorla was inside when the tower came down. He was never seen again. But the full weight of what he had accomplished was not measured in his death. It was measured in how many people did not die with him. When the dust finally settled, the scale of the disaster was almost impossible to grasp. Nearly 3,000 people were killed. 2 skyscrapers were erased from the skyline. But inside that horror, there was one staggering statistic. A number that didn't belong in that day. A number that shouldn't have been possible. Morgan Stanley occupied 22 floors of the South Tower, with more than 2,700 employees on site. Only 13 of them were killed, in a building that would soon no longer exist, in a disaster that claimed thousands. Rick's relentless drills, his refusal to trust empty reassurances, and his decision to go against the official order meant that almost every single one of his people walked out alive. He did not live to see the final count. His remains were never recovered. 3 weeks later, he was declared dead. But for thousands of families, the difference between a phone call home and a name on a memorial wall traced back to one man with a bullhorn who had spent 8 years preparing for a day everyone else hoped would never come. In the end, Rick Rescorla's story was not just about how he died in a collapsing tower. It was about how he spent his life making sure that when the worst finally happened, 2,700 others didn't die with him. His life was a reminder that a single, determined person could change the outcome for thousands. He prepared when others assumed safety, acted when others hesitated, and paid the ultimate price so others could live. He had seen the future, stood his ground, and never yielded. Thanks for watching.